Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this video, I would like to discuss some genres. Now, before we begin with video games, let's go a brief overview of just the general concept of genres. What are genres? Genres are categories. Here, in this picture right here, we have different genres of different types of fiction. We have adventure, crime, comedy, action, drama, thriller, horror, fantasy, romance, mystery, sports, sci-fi, so on and so forth. These are categories designed for end users. What genres are basically just ways to simplify similarly like-minded things and put them together so that people can more easily find and categorize different things that they like. Now, one of the key things to realize about genres is that they change. Depending on who you ask, or depending on what role you have in the creative process, the same work of art could have 2, 3, 4 different genres that it could possibly be. So, I'm going to use this example. We've all seen Netflix, or Hulu, or Amazon Video, or some other sort of online streaming type of, service. Or if you're old enough to remember movie rental stores, same sort of situation. You had your horror section, your adventure section, your action, your romance, your mysteries. They were always categorized in these different genres and aisles to find things in. Well, just because something is an action movie does not mean it's the same type of action movie. If you were a script writer, if this was a script writing course, instead of talking about action and horror, we'd probably be talking about Monster in the House, Golden Fleece, Out of the Bottle, Dude with a Problem, Buddy Love, Why Done It, Full Triumphant, Rites of Passage, Institutionalized, Superhero. These are, according to Save the Cat, the 10 different genres. But how many times did you ever go to a movie rental store or go onto Netflix and search up Dude with a Problem? It doesn't mean anything. This is an insider term, not necessarily an outsider term. It's not an end-user genre. So, for example, and I'll show you this. I'm going to show you 2 trailers of 2 movies that would be considered action movies by any other account. By any website, any Netflix, anything like that. But they're going to have 2 completely different focal points on their trailers because the actual movies themselves have 2 completely different focal points as well. So the first one here is for Die Hard. Die Hard, even though we consider it an action movie, if we were to use Save the Cat genres, would be more aptly called A Dude with a Problem. Because it's about a guy. And it's about everyone trying to stop him. Because he's the only person who can save the day. So on and so forth. It's more technical than that, but this is not a screenwriting course. So let's watch this trailer, and I'll showcase. The entire trailer is about this one guy being the only person who can save the day, and all the villains want to get him.
We thank you one and all and wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
It's Christmas Eve in L.A. But a team of terrorists...
You want money? What kind of terrorist are you? Who said we were terrorists?
...have their own holiday plans.
And I'm telling you, you're just going to kill me. Okay. We're doing it the hard way.
But the one thing they didn't plan on was New York cop John McClane.
Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew? You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
And you'll have it.
They have already killed one hostage.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Good papa, honey.
You really an
New Jersey counts. What does he think he's doing?
Job.
Here's the artillery on us.
You idiot. It's the police.
He's an easy guy to like
Welcome to the party, pal.
and a hard man to kill. Bruce Willis. Die Hard.
And there we go. There's Die Hard. Every single scene was about either Bruce Willis's character or the villains trying to kill Bruce Willis's character or, so on and so forth. It was very simple. There's a guy, there's a problem, he's the one that has to solve it. Now, this time I'll show you Lethal Weapon. Also would be considered an action movie. But, under Save the Cat genres, this would be considered a buddy love. This movie is not about the two characters saving the day. It's about the two characters trying to get along.
He is a criminal's worst nightmare. A cop who enjoys the danger.
Don's note, you get some, just bring him down.
Do you really want to jump?
Well, then that's fine with me.
Wait, what do you mean? Wait a minute. Put this down.
He is ready to retire. No, he's gonna wish he had.
Gone!
Raj, meet you in the corner.
New fun. Too old for this.
If these guys can just stand each other,
What you got in there?
Boy and Smith.
A lot of old timers carry those.
the bad guys don't stand a chance.
Don't kill anybody. I'm telling anybody. I'm too old for this. Are you as good as you say you are? Nobody can touch me.
Suppose we better register you as a lethal weapon. You ever met anybody you didn't kill?
Well, I haven't killed you yet.
And that's Lethal Weapon. Now, tell me, who was the villain of this movie, just based on the trailer? We didn't see a villain. We didn't see what it's at stake. We don't know the big plot twist or anything like that. All we know are, can these two characters coexist? They would both be labeled action movies on Netflix, or Hulu, or Amazon Prime. But as far as the writing process goes, they're two entirely different genres. Genres are nice and flexible like that. So, let's go and talk some video games with genres now. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. As you can see, I've got plenty of examples up here. And we're going to go through and make a point or two. So, first and foremost, here's a racing game. Yes, I have the sound turned off here. So, as we can all see, this is a racing game. This is Gran Turismo 6. Obviously, we're racing along and driving, trying to get into first place. We've got a number of laps we have to go. We have to avoid the other cars, so on and so forth. Quite simply, we can argue that this is a racing game. You know what else is a racing game? Mario Kart. And this racing game is vastly different than Gran Turismo. Whereas Gran Turismo was more of a simulation, here we have cute, colorful characters racing along a track. They're still going across in, 3 laps or whatever, but there's differences. Now, if you pick up coins, you increase your top speed. Getting hit by items will reduce your top speed. And of course, by going over an item block, you get an item, a mushroom, a shell. You get turbo boost. You get weapons to throw at each other. And then, of course, because this is Mario Kart 8, zero gravity. Crashing into other opponents will actually give you a speed burst. And then, of course, as we go over this jump, we magically turn to a hang glider. And on other courses, we can turn into a submarine and go underwater. So, all of this, doing tricks off of ramps, it's a completely different game. But these are the mechanics of the game. They are both qualified as racers, or racing games. But you can just see back and forth how different they both are. There are no weapons in Gran Turismo. There is no getting super boosts for doing jumps. There is no, slide turboing into, a mushroom and then peeling out into a banana peel or something, There's nothing like that. So, while there are similarities that put these guys in the same genre, they are also still clearly different. But, there's also other racing games. So, we have ourselves two racing games that are similar here. What can we say that are the same? They encourage you to get to first place after a certain number of laps. You need to win the race to win. Okay, but that's not true of every racing game. Here is a game called Excite Truck. Whoops. Now, the point of Excite Truck, if you notice up at this top, this 0 out of 70 stars, the point of Excite Truck is to get the highest score. It doesn't matter if you come in first place, second place, or even last place. It'll just determine how many bonus stars you get at the end. The point is not to necessarily get first place. The point is, no matter what place you get in, you have the most stars. And you get the most stars by crashing into things, avoiding things, making big jumps, flying through rings, doing some tricks. You have all these other things that you're doing here to get stars. Now, either way here, though, whether you're in Mario Kart, Gran Turismo, or Excite Truck, you still have a win condition. What about a racing game where it's impossible to win? This right here is Race the Sun. It's in the name, Race the Sun. The entire point is the sun is going down, and you have to continue racing the sun, no matter what. You get power-ups for doing scores, get faster, get speeded up, and eventually you will, and I repeat, you either will crash or the sun will eventually go down. It is impossible to win this game. This little run, the run that I'm showing you right now, goes on for 45 minutes straight. That's how long this person was playing this one level. And they never won. Okay? It's still a racing game, but it's a racing game where the only thing you can do is get a higher score. You can never win. You will always lose. It's a completely different type of game. But something about Race the Sun, Excite Truck, Mario Kart, and Gran Turismo all lump them together into the same categories for the general consumers. Those are the specific mechanics that are unique between all of them, that are common among all of them, that group them in this genre. Okay? So, think about what gameplay that is similar between all of these that puts them all in the exact same type of bundle. So, we've seen how genres can vary their details between game to game. What about the same genre inside the same series? So here's Super Mario Bros., which everyone agrees is a platforming game, I'd imagine. And the point of the platformer, of course, is to run and jump and do that sort of stuff. Now, in this game, we noticed as he just jumped on the Goomba, you defeat enemies by jumping on them. That's pretty much one of the go-to things in platformers, being able to jump on an enemy. Well, what happens if you have a platformer where you don't jump on enemies to defeat them? You instead have Mario Bros. 2. Literally the very next game in the series. When you jump on an enemy in Mario Bros. 2, the enemy does not die. Instead, you have to pick them up and throw them. And even then, You don't throw them and they die. You throw them into other enemies, or throw fruit on them, or throw them off a cliff. The simple fact of not being able to jump on top of an enemy to kill it radically changes the way you play the game. And this is the same genre in the exact same series. And of course, with the jump to 3D, we have Super Mario 64. Now, Super Mario 64 is considered also itself to be the birth of a completely different subgenre, the collectathon, or the 3D platformer. Whereas, instead of being able to just, go to the end of the level, and while there were other games that had multiple exits in a level, they were still linear paths. In this game, this is not the only path you could take. He could have gotten that star behind the chain chomp. Could have, to go in here, you don't have to go through the rolling boulders or the cannonballs. You could go crawling up the mountainside. You could do wall jumps up this gap that he just got to. You could take the little flight path and shoot up to it. There are multiple different ways to run around all this in this sandbox environment. So, we're just seeing in multiple different ways how these characters and how this one series can radically change itself over and over again and still be considered the same genre. Now, when we get to this, I'm now going to just showcase a little bit of a challenge here for you. Because we can all kind of agree platformers are platformers, racers are racers. What genre is this? If you said fighting game, you're probably correct. It's a fighting game. You got two different people, two different players fighting against each other once the person doing this actually picks a character to fight. We actually have, special attacks, back and forth, different rounds. You have to get rid of the opponent's health to knock them out and win the round. Win both rounds, and you move on to the next stage. This is a fighting game. However, this game also came out on arcades. And something that I see happen many times in assignments and teaching these classes is people like to go and claim that arcade games are their own genre. Okay, well, Street Fighter II came out in arcades. It was an arcade game. You know what's also an arcade game? House of the Dead is an arcade game. And clearly, as we look at this game going forward, this is exactly like Street Fighter, isn't it? I mean, I see two people on a screen, and we're gonna fight them, right? Oh no, we're going to shoot them. And, matter of fact, this is not even a different type of shooter. This is not like Halo. This is completely on rails. This is one path along the way. And yes, I know I've played House of the Dead. You can actually get more than one path by doing specific things. But that's not the point. The point is that this is an on-rail shooter. And the shooting genre itself also has multiple different subgenres. Third-person shooter, first-person shooter, top-down shooter, side-scrolling shooter. Hey, what about Pokemon Snap? It's a shooting game, but instead of shooting bullets, you're shooting film for a camera. And you're judged on how well of a photograph you take. By the size of the Pokemon, by the pose of the Pokemon, so on and so forth. But hey, it's all shooters, right? And by the way, I mean, this game right here, House of the Dead, Street Fighter, oh yeah, those are both arcade games. You know what's also an arcade game? Hydro Thunder. It's a racing game with boats. You know what's also an arcade game? Donkey Kong. It's a platformer. You're Mario, you're jumping up over barrels to try to get to the top of the level. Arcade is not a genre. Arcade is a platform. Not every single game that's on a PlayStation is the same. Not every single game that's made by Nintendo is the same. Not every single game on your iPhone is the same. These are all platforms or companies or something like that. they are not genres in of themselves. So I advise against using the platform of a game as its genre. Arcade can have racers, arcade can have shooters, arcade can have platformers, it can have puzzle games, it can have strategy games. Arcades are just a method of delivery. So, with that being said, these last two are purposefully difficult games that could go into multiple genres. The first one is PacMan. A lot of people like to go and say, Miss PacMan, oh, that's an arcade game. Okay, well, how's an arcade game if arcade is not a genre? In that case, what is this? Is this a puzzle game? Is this a strategy game? Is this a survival horror game? You are, in fact, faced with enemies with limited resources, and you only have a certain number of chances to kill them before you run out. And you can only ever hold the enemy off for so long. Eventually, they will catch up, they will kill you. So it's a matter of running around collecting the dots and using your resources wisely. Is this the same genre as Resident Evil? I'm not giving you a yes or no answer, I'm just giving you something to think about. But, as we see, it's not that easy when the word arcade goes away. Another problem game is Archon, the Light in the Dark. Now, there's many games that are like this, and by this I don't literally mean, hey, it's kind of a board game, but kind of not. I mean games that blend multiple genres together. Okay, and we'll see that in a moment once these all settle in and start working together. Now, the point of Archon is that it's basically a chessboard. You can move your pieces around. The blue area will switch every couple of turns. If you're on a dark area, it gives benefit to the guys on the right. If you're on a white area, it gives help to guys on the left, because we got the light side and the dark side of this fantasy realm. But once your characters merge, unlike chess, you don't just take the piece, you fight in an arena. And different characters have different benefits. Some can shapeshift, some have a short-range melee attack, some have a long-range attack. And the sorcerers over here have different spells they can pick from, whether it be teleport, heal, or something like that, bringing a character back from the dead, all while the board itself is changing so that it might give better benefit to characters. And there's two ways to win. You can either destroy the enemies, or you can get the 5 different glowing points on the map. The 3 in the middle, and the 2 near the things. Now, here's a Phoenix. It has a short-range attack compared to the, was it a Basilisk? But yeah, they have different abilities, different attacks. So, but you'll see games like this, where they are very, very confusing because they have multiple genres they could potentially be in. Is this an action game, a strategy game, a little bit of both? How many modern games do you have where there's a little bit of stealth? There's also a little bit of shooting. There's a little bit of beat 'em up. There's a little bit of platforming. There's a little bit of role-playing. There's a little bit of a level-up system. There's a little bit of survival mechanics in there as well, where you have, a crafting system and resource gathering. And then, of course, there's cutscenes and storyline beats that you have to go through. So, what is this? What genre could it be? Many, many games can be many different genres depending on how you interpret it. So, hopefully this is a good understanding of genres. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a great day.